Your eyes and your vision are under attack. Damaging blue light from the sun, your phone, your computer, your tablet, even light bulbs and car headlights is constantly bombarding you. The good news is our eyes actually already have a line of defense to counter the effects of blue light. This defense is made up of 3 pigments called carotenoids. MacuHealth with Micromicelle, the only supplement with the exclusive patent on all 3 macular carotenoids and Micromicelle technology.
With more screen usage and indoor time, myopia, also known as nearsightedness, is increasing and getting worse in children. Now, certified eye doctors can prescribe MiSight One Day, the first and only FDA-approved soft contact lens to slow myopia progression in age-appropriate children. Visit CooperVision.com to find a Brilliant Futures certified eye doctor near you. Welcome back to part 2 of my interview with Mary Beth Gonzalez. In this episode, Mary Beth discusses the Dr. Gonzalez Cancer Protocol and some of the celebrities he helped over the years. If you're new here and you like our interviews, press like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell to get notifications of great new interviews. And please leave comments. Also, be sure to watch our full-length documentary, Open Your Eyes, on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube Movies and Shows. Let's just talk about Robert Goode first, if we could, if you don't mind. So Kelly also did the classified sympathetic and parasympathetic personality types, and that was involved. And he also involved some of Gerson's work, Max Gerson's work, with the coffee enemas and
juicing
and the juicing. And then Kelly got into trouble with Steve McQueen when he treated Steve McQueen.
He took on Steve McQueen late in Steve McQueen's diagnosis, and never should have done it because by taking him on as a patient, he had a responsibility, but Steve McQueen was never going to be the kind of patient who was going to actually follow the protocol. He drank hard, he smoked hard, he never really did the protocol. But a couple, I think it was weeks after he started meeting with Dr. Kelly, he ended up going off to Mexico and did a treatment there, and he died.
And supposedly when he died, on the autopsy, all the cancer was dead.
Yes.
And he died of really the surgery. Apparently.
And supposedly, Dr. Kelly was actually given the dead tumor that came out of of Steve McQueen's body. And he used to have it in a jar in his office. I don't know what happened to that. But that just goes to show you that even though he was only on the protocol for a short amount of time, it did help, kill the tumor. And that isn't why he died. But of course, Dr. Kelly got blamed.
So let's talk about Dr. Goode, Robert Goode. You mentioned he was the father of immunology, and all these people have led up to Nick's treatment, and we'll get into the treatment in a little bit more detail. But talk about Robert Goode and how he influenced Nick and the problems that Dr. Goode had, and even though he tried to help Nick.
So Dr. Goode met Nick when Nick was working at doing his research at Cornell Medical School. And when Nick wanted to do an independent study, Dr. Goode was very happy to help him and was very interested. And he collaborated a lot on what type of information that they needed to get for the Kelly study. But unfortunately, around that same time, Dr. Goode was involved in a scandal. And even though, he didn't do anything wrong, it was because he was the president of Sloan Kettering at the time that this scandal happened, he was blamed for it. So as I understand it, the scandal had to do with somebody in another research lab who had marked mice and I don't really know the details, Carrie.
Yeah, I guess they marked the mice with, they were doing organ transplants with unrelated animals, and one of the mice had this black stripe, and they found out that somebody, that the person who was doing the research actually was a magic marker, that they put the black stripe on one of the mice, and it made Goode very worried about getting involved in different types of research that were not conventional, that may help other people, but he was always worried and always seemed to always have he would help, but keep arm's length, even though he would help.
And during the end of the time when Nick was doing his research project with Dr. Kelly, Dr. Goode was actually asked to leave Sloan Kettering, and he moved to another research hospital in Florida, and Nick followed him and went with him to try to because he really believed that he was a wonderful scientist.
So, and let's talk about Roy Sweet, who was a chiropractor, who was Nick, in the book, they said that Nick said that was the smartest man he ever met.
So Dr. Roy Sweat invented the Atlas Orthogonal treatment of chiropractic adjustment. And it's a very specific device that requires no manipulation whatsoever during the chiropractic treatment. So what happens is, with this device, you're lying down and they tap your atlas right here behind your ear. And it's a very precise measurement. When they're doing it, it looks like, very simple. This is like a stylus that hits you very briefly and softly right here behind your ear. But there's a lot of scientific vector math that goes into figuring out exactly where they're supposed to tap it. And what happens is, by doing that, your body completely aligns, and it eliminates everything from neck pain and back pain. I've used the treatment in the past for migraines, and it's miraculous. So Nick met Dr. Sweat and got to the point where he so believed in the work that almost every patient who came through Nick's office was asked to go get a Atlas adjustment at the Sweat Institute, which is in Atlanta, because once somebody actually is in complete alignment and their atlas is in place, they can absorb the nutrients properly. So it really helped with the nutritional program to be completely in alignment.
And is Roy still practicing, or his son still practicing?
He sure is.
He is.
So he's in his 90s, and his son, Matt Sweat, runs the clinic. Matt's a great guy. And we actually had representatives from the Sweat Foundation come and teach at our educational seminar, so that all the new Gonzalez guardians, doctors, know the importance of this Atlas adjustment. And there are other doctors around the country who do this actual treatment. I have a doctor here nearby in Fort Myers who does it for me. And it's just truly miraculous.
Now, Ernst Wander was very influential. He discovered that smoking caused cancer, and he was pretty much maligned for that, for coming up with, for making that discovery. And him and Nick, he helped Nick, and they spoke a lot. If you could talk about that relationship.
Well, similar to Nick's relationship with Dr. Kelly, Dr. Sweat, Dr. Winder was actually in some ways kind of another father to Nick. Nick lost his father when he was in medical school. His father died of cancer. And so Nick really gravitated towards these older gentlemen who could, who he could be a mentor from. And so Ernest Winder was one of those type of people, and he really believed in Nick's work and helped to set up some research projects so that Nick could actually get his work properly evaluated.
So let's talk about the protocol now. We talked a little bit about the diet, but let's get into it a little bit more. So there's all these different types of diets, and you could go online with the with the Gonzalez metabolic type test. So you said there's like 100 questions.
There's 96 questions, multiple choice. So anyone can do that. But that's not really being on the protocol. That's just getting your nutritional plan, which is important for a lot of people. But if you have a serious illness or you're concerned about preventing cancer, we recommend that you see one of these new doctors who know how to implement the Gonzalez protocol, because they're going to be able to.
Real quick. So say you, God forbid, have cancer and you want to do the protocol, and you're going to go see one of the doctors, and they're going to decide which diet type. Step one is they're going to find out which diet. So are they going to do it by speaking with you, or you still take the test?
Some of the doctors are having their patients take the test, and they do a detailed medical intake exam. They also have their own diagnostic tests that we've developed for them so that they can metabolically type you in a very specific manner. And that will help not only to design the best diet, but the best supplement plan, because we'll be able to see what your imbalances are for different nutrition as well as nutrients.
Now, is juicing a big part of the diet part?
It can be for some of the diets. And it's just a great way to get raw enzymes and the raw foods into your system.
And when I met Nick and I was asking him, I go, well, which is the best type, before I knew all about the different diets and the different metabolic types, parasympathetic, sympathetic balance, before I knew anything about that, I said, well, which is the best diet? And he goes, well, it depends on the person. And then I realized, yeah, it depends on the person. Some people should eat meat. Other people shouldn't eat meat. Other people should be mostly vegetables. And I think that's really an important point, that one diet isn't right for everybody. And we keep, we keep talking about that, but I think it's very important that people understand it, because it's hard to really understand, because some people are you got to be vegan. Other people say, oh, you got to be carnivore. And then obviously there's many different types of diets.
So exactly, Carrie, there's 7 basic diets that range from more carnivore to more vegetarian, and then balance in between. And thankfully, I was balanced and Nick was balanced. So it made it really easy to cook for our meals, because we were basically eating the same thing. But none of Dr. Gonzalez's diets are vegan or vegetarian. And they all include some form of animal protein, which is one of the things that he learned from Weston A. Price. Now, some of these diets require like 4 servings of organic vegetables every day, vegetable juice every day. And then there's other variations where people can't have any vinegar. Some of the diets have leafy greens, dark leafy greens, a lot of those every day, but they can't have pickled pickled foods. So the diets are really different. And it's been fascinating to me, now that we've introduced the Gonzalez metabolic type test, to hear people's reactions once they get their diet. And I have to say, like 90% of the people who respond to me say, yes, I'm so excited, because I always thought that this is the kind of food that I should be eating. But, I got confused. I was doing Atkins, I was doing keto, but this really rings true. And, Nick would say that people intuitively know what they're supposed to eat. Their brain knows what they're supposed to eat, but then they listen to all these so-called diet experts who are doing the one size fits all. And it takes a different type of thinking to realize that it's not like that. You really need to eat what's right for you.
And how about coffee alcohol, processed foods, sugar, are they on the diet at all?
Absolutely not. So, the part of the goal of the whole program is to detox your body. So you don't want to add toxicity to your body, and you don't want to add sugar because cancer feeds on sugar. And so there's no white flour, no white sugar, no alcohol. And the only coffee that is recommended is the coffee in your coffee enema.
And should that be organic in the coffee enema?
Yes. And, low acid, organic, the cleanest coffee you can get.
Now let's talk about the fun part, the supplements. All the pancreatic supplements, 45 grams of pancreatic oral supplements a day for certain cancer patients. So let's talk about the supplements, where the origin came from the supplements, and how do people take 150 supplements a day? And talk about that. I'm so fascinated with those supplements.
Okay,
I used to take a couple of pancreatic supplements a day from that one company that I'm trying to remember the brand. I saw at IFM, they had a booth, and I was ordering from them, and I'm drawing a blank on their name. They did mention the brand in the Maverick MD book, but what's the name of that brand of the pancreatic supplements?
So Nick specially designed pancreatic enzymes that are now formulated by Allergy Research Group.
Allergy Research, yes, thank you.
And consumers can buy them at nutricology.com. And if you just put in the search bar the name Gonzalez, you'll see all the different enzymes and other supplements that Nick formulated that they now offer people. So I still shake my head in disbelief that Nick had so many different talents. But so not only was he a great writer and a great doctor, but he was a scientist, and he designed all these supplements that he offered to his patients. He didn't necessarily, seek out wanting to have to do that, but he couldn't find on the general market the exact supplements that worked for the balancing of the autonomic nervous system that he needed in his practice. So you asked a little bit about how the supplements work. Well, for the sympathetic dominant patients, Nick would generally recommend very large doses of magnesium, some potassium, and very little calcium, because that stimulates the sympathetic nerves, and you don't want that if you're already sympathetic dominant. For parasympathetics, they would be given large doses of calcium, but really told to avoid magnesium and potassium. And then everybody would get the pancreatic enzymes that Nick formulated. And his special formulation is a freeze-dried whole pancreas, and it comes from the pancreas of animals in New Zealand, where the process is very clean, and these animals, they don't have mad cow disease, and the freeze-dried whole pancreas is very minimally activated. So it's much closer to eating raw pancreas than any of the other forms of pancreatic enzymes on the market, which is why people, universally say they're the best enzymes available. His cancer patients, they would take about 8 to 12 of his pancreatic enzymes, 425 milligrams a capsule, 5 times a day away from meals. And this really helps those enzymes focus on the cancer as opposed to aiding in digestion. And, for those of you who are interested in this, you should know that one of those 5 times a day doses is at 3:30 in the morning, which is when the body is at rest and is likely already digested dinner. So those enzymes can really focus on the cancer. But anybody who did that many pancreatic enzymes, had in order to avoid toxemia, had to do the detox procedures and the coffee enemas.
So we have the patients have the diet, they have the pancreatic supplements. were there any other supplements like vitamin C, vitamin D that were on the protocol?
So yes. So there were over 100 different supplements that Nick worked with in the protocol. And so depending on what your metabolic type was, and your other symptoms, the doctors will design a program specifically for you. And it includes, the B vitamins and D and A and a bunch of glandulars to support your heart and your lungs and your hypothalamus. And then, other trace minerals that he designed. And like I said, a lot of these products are available now from Allergy Research Group and from at nutricology.com.
MacuHealth, your science-born and tested solutions for visual performance, macular degeneration, and dry eye syndrome. New products coming soon. Embrace the science.
One thing optometry has been missing is a unified message that explains the importance of eye care. Now, OYE Broadcasting has solved that dilemma. We're excited to announce this content delivery service that is designed to expand and enhance your practice and grow the industry of optometry as a whole. Please visit oybroadcasting.com for more information and sign up today.
So we take the pancreatic, we take the supplements. The cancer is dying inside our body. We're toxic. Now we have to detoxify. So let's talk about the main pillar, which we alluded to a little bit before, the coffee enema. That, people, always shake their head with the coffee enema, but this is something that was very, was part of medicine for a very long time, because, detoxification, and, when I went to high school, we called it excretion. So now it's called detoxification. We give it a fancier word. I say detoxification, it's like excretion. I have an infrared sauna in my house. I do juicing. I'm very interested in detoxification, because you can't be healthy unless you detoxify. You can't, some people are very good at detoxifying, but a lot of people have a snip where about a third of the people are very poor at detoxifying, and they really need to be able to detoxify. So let's talk about the coffee enema. And even though people laugh about it, let's talk about the importance and what it does for somebody.
Well, I understand a lot of people are a little hesitant. And I get some really crazy questions, people saying things like, well, isn't it too hot to do a coffee enema, and doesn't that hurt to take in all that hot coffee? And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, no, because it's really important that the coffee just be body temperature. You're not putting hot coffee in your bum. That would be really painful. And anybody who is hesitant, I just ask them, like, try it once, because the first time you do it, you will feel relief. It's very simple to prepare the coffee and have it be at body temperature. You're going to do it a couple times a day if you're a cancer patient, or just for preventative reasons, you're going to do it just in the morning. And I find it to be one of the most calming times of my day. And Nick used to read his Bible for an hour each morning before he went to work, and he would be doing his coffee enemas while he was reading his Bible. And so it's just a very simple procedure. And it really does not only help clean you out, but it helps calm you down and put you into a more parasympathetic state.
And where can you buy the stuff to do the coffee enemas? So you buy the right stuff, because people are going to hear this and they're going to want to do it.
So we recommend people go to purelifeenemas.com, and we have a link on our website in the resources section. There's different types of enema bags and buckets, and really gets down to your personal preference. I use a stainless steel bucket that I can easily clean. And then when I travel, I use a silicone bag because that's just a lot easier. But some people don't like the bucket because it's stainless steel, so you can't see the coffee as it's ingested, and you don't know how much you've taken in. So it's really personal preference, but it's really important to put a French colon tube on the end so that you don't hurt yourself as you insert the tube, and don't put the tube up too high. But there's several places on the internet that give you an explanation about how to actually do the procedure.
And how long do you leave the coffee in? I mean, as long as you can, I would imagine.
No, you don't want it in for more than 15 minutes. It's actually counterproductive. You hold it for as long up to 15 minutes as you can, and you'll get better with practice. And for those who really have trouble holding their enema, they can put a little blackstrap molasses in the coffee mixture, and that really helps. But mostly it's just important to calm down and relax, and you'll be able to hold your enema.
And what was Nick's feeling about being there at EMFs that we're exposed to, being there in EMF tower, and clean water?
So he was very concerned about EMF and the dangerous levels that we were seeing in New York City. He had our home measured several times, as well as his office. And he personally didn't carry a cell phone, and much to my chagrin, because it was always hard to reach him. But then again, he was always at the office, so he had his desk phone. But he didn't carry a cell phone. He came up with various ways of shielding in our home, because he realized that what it was doing to our central nervous system. And he also felt that it was incredibly important for us to drink lots of clean water. And one of the very last articles that he wrote was on this topic, and it's posted on our website as well. He thought we should have 8 to 10 8-ounce glasses of clean water every day. And we personally had a reverse osmosis water filter at our home, and use that exclusively.
And did you add minerals back to the reverse to the water after you went through the reverse?
We didn't. And I know that some people are talking about that. That's not something that we did. There's so many minerals that are added in the supplement plans that we were on. So my guess is that Nick didn't think it was necessary. We would sometimes put a pinch of salt into our water glasses, because unlike popular belief, really, Nick thought it was very important for us to have salt.
How about, was it Himalayan salt or was it regular salt?
It was Himalayan salt, and it was also Celtic sea salt.
And what was Nick's feeling about the sun? A lot of people feel we're not out in the sun enough. We're not getting rays from the sun. Did he feel safe sun was important?
He did. And so we had a home in Florida while we were living in New York City. And when we would come down to Florida, Nick he'd wear a hat, but he would make a point of getting out and get vitamin D every day. And in New York City, he walked back and forth from his home to his office. So he would be outside in the fresh air, getting vitamin D on his walk. He never used sunscreen. And he felt that was just putting more chemicals on your body. You didn't need that. You actually wanted to be able to not necessarily get a suntan, but not put another layer on top of your skin that could be toxic. He didn't sit out in the sun. He did not enjoy sitting in the sun, but he did take a lot of long walks, and felt that it was important for exercise and to get good vitamin D.
In this book, The Maverick MD, they talk about a number of cases of people that he helped. You've written other books about different cases that were helped. Can you give us a few examples of some patients who had cancer and came to you and that live much longer than they should have, or I shouldn't say than they should have, lived much longer than predicted?
Yes. So When Nick died, he was working nights and weekends on this massive cancer patient casebook. It was more than 120 cases with 19 different types of cancer. So after he died, with the help of some of his doctor friends, we published these books in a series called Conquering Cancer. And they really document the effectiveness of the protocol. You've got in there some pancreatic cancer patients who've been living 20, 30 years after diagnosis, but it is just miracle case after miracle case. And it's everything from breast cancer to bladder cancer to leukemia to melanoma. I didn't know any of these patients in Nick's lifetime, but after he died, many of them have reached out to me, not only to help support the foundation, but to help tell their story. Several of them spoke at our educational seminar and explained firsthand what it's like to be on the protocol, explained the course of how their oncologist in their hometown would really discourage them from doing that crazy Gonzalez protocol, and how they just stuck with it because they had the faith. And Nick was a big part of encouraging them and helping them to believe that they can heal their own body, which is why when he died, it was so traumatic for so many of us to have lost that source of motivation and not just knowledge.
It's not like he was like some of the run-of-the-mill doctor. He was Ivy League trained and studied from breakfast to midnight nonstop to try, really wanted to find a cure for cancer and really just wanted to help people. I remember one of his interviews that was on Fox News with Carol Alt. He saved Carol Alt. Well, she credits him with saving her from her cancer. If you could talk a little bit about the relationship with Carol Alt.
So Nick had a wonderful relationship with Carol, and she was a patient for quite some time. I feel comfortable talking about it because she did talk about it on her show, A Healthy You, that was on Fox News for I think several years. And she has since spoken about Nick and the Gonzalez protocol on the lecture circuit, specifically at the Truth About Cancer, and talking about the importance of a raw diet. And she's written cookbooks all about the raw diet. But Nick helped her significantly. And, she's a wonderful patient because she does exactly what she's told. And frankly, that's what is important. Compliance is key in this type of a protocol. You can get everything written on a piece of paper from the doctor, but you actually have to do it. And it takes a lot of self-initiative. And she felt that it was the only choice for her. And she's, doing great now.
And she's still doing well. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
He was diagnosed many, many years ago.
Yes.
When I found out about Nick, was from Suzanne Summers' book, Knockout. Couldn't you talk about the relationship with Suzanne Summers and Nick and how and what was that like?
So Nick got a phone call out of the blue one day, and there was Suzanne Summers calling him to talk about his alternative cancer treatments. And she explained that she was writing this book and did he want to participate? And so he said, sure. And she said, well, put together a couple cases. Well, Nick always did everything to the nth degree. So I think he sent her like 30 cases. And then she read them and she said, well, I want to talk to some of these patients. I think she was a little bit suspicious because she'd worked with other doctors who were in this book and they didn't have 30 miracle cases. So that led to her actually interviewing some of the patients. And, thankfully, several of Nick's patients and their stories were included in her book, Knockout, which covers a variety of different alternative methods for treating cancer. And they went on to become very good friends. She went on and she said this publicly, so I'm not revealing any secrets here, but she went on his protocol for preventative reasons. She had had cancer before she ever met Nick. and did the program. Her husband did the program, and they were very helpful in getting the word out about Nick's work, because it was right around 9/11 that a lot of people didn't want to travel to New York City, and they were scared to get on planes, and business was really slow. And so Suzanne's book really helped raise awareness and get a lot more people to be curious about Nick's work and then pursue him in New York.
I think a lot of people found out about different ways of treating cancer because I guess, over the last 50 years, lifespan on cancer survival conventionally really hasn't changed that much when you're talking about solid tumors. So Ty Bollinger did The Truth About Cancer. What was that experience like doing that? It looked like it was a tremendous achievement by Ty Bollinger, traveling all over the world and putting together a 9-part series on cancer and taking some bullets for it. What was it like? What was it like that experience? And what was it like for you? And what was it like for Nick?
So Ty Bollinger sought out Nick when he was doing his first documentary, and Nick took his call, and Ty seemed very earnest. And even though Nick knew he didn't have a track record per se, Nick was always interested in telling his story, and he felt like he could get a fair chance with Ty. So Ty came to his office, and they bonded really quickly and talked a lot about the Lord, and Nick gave him his favorite Bibles, and then they talked about different aspects of Nick's protocol. But then Ty left, and Nick didn't really know what was going to happen with this content. Nick had experiences in the past where people would come and interview him, and then he would never see it, and it would never go anywhere. But boy, did this documentary. This documentary was very different. Ty put together a fabulous series with a bunch of other doctors, and significantly, helped improve people's awareness that there were alternative cancer treatments. Now, that all happened, and before Nick died, and when Nick passed, Ty and Charlene Bollinger reached out to me and offered their condolences. They were very upset, and they invited me to come to an event that they were having where they were going to honor Nick with a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I'll be honest, I was terrified. I was still in heavy grief, and they asked me to come and speak and accept this award at The Truth About Cancer. And I went, and I was all ready to give my little acceptance speech. And then they played this incredible video of honoring Nick. They had interviewed all these different people who were telling the story of how Nick had changed their lives. And I just lost it, because I was ready to do my little piece, but then I got so emotional listening to this video. And I'll never forget how Charlene stood there and held my hand on the stage and helped me get through it. And then I, gave my little acceptance speech. And at that point, I announced that we were starting this nonprofit foundation, and that I needed help, because I didn't know how I was going to actually lead this foundation and carry on Nick's work. And Ty and Charlene offered us a very significant donation. And then Mike Adams, the health ranger, was in the audience, and he stood up and he said, "I'm going to match it." So I went home with $60,000 that after that event, and even more determined than ever to figure out how to accomplish what we've just been able to announce today.
And if people do want to donate, they could go to the website.
They sure can, and we would greatly appreciate it. we were doing research now with these new doctors and their patients, so we can demonstrate all the additional ways that the protocol can be effective. We also want to help get the word out to more people about their different options and the different paths to wellness with this program. So you can donate on our website through PayPal. There's also an address there if you want to send a donation. And, we rely 100% on donations. So, anything you can contribute would be greatly appreciated.
And Nick has been on the Robert Scott Bell show a lot, and you've been on the Robert Scott Bell, and he's been a big supporter.
Yes, he's such a good friend. So Robert Scott Bell it was almost like he had Nick on speed dial whenever he needed to fill a hole in his schedule. And I think Nick was on, rather regularly, and Nick loved it. They had a great relationship, and they talk about everything from science to politics, sometimes, sports. And so Robert has been a huge supporter since Nick died of helping me get the word out. And yes, I recently did a podcast with him.
And Congressman, I want to ask you about Congressman Dan Burton. Was he a friend? Was he helpful?
Don't really know much about that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, and Kelly Brogan would come and study with Nick.
Yes. So Kelly Brogan approached Nick in the last year of his life and asked if she could actually pay him like a patient, but to come in and learn how the protocol could be applied for her psychiatric patients. And so they met several times, and she has taken aspects of Nick's protocol and applied them to her new online protocol that she offers to people who are suffering from depression or trying to get off of any type of pharmaceutical medication.
And Nick's partner, Linda Isaacs, is she still seeing patients and using the protocol?
She is. So she stayed in New York for a couple of years after Nick died, moved into a much smaller office. They always had separate medical practices. So, she had her own patients and took on a couple of Nicks. And then more recently, she moved to Austin, Texas. And she has been instrumental in helping us during the publication of all those books. She knew a lot about the patients that we were writing cases about. And, I'm very thankful that she's so committed to keeping the protocol alive. If you go to her website, you'll see she's written several articles recently that she's gotten published in scientific journals that are about various aspects of the protocol. And she's been, instrumental in helping to carry on Nick's legacy.
And where is she located now?
Austin, Texas.
She's in Austin, Texas. Well, this has been an unbelievable discussion. You gave me extra time. It's just such a fascinating story. Nick helped so many people that were told there was nothing that could be done. They were sent home to die, and Nick was able to help them. And we need to get this word out. And people could buy this book, The Maverick MD. One of Nick's patients, Mary Swander, if I'm saying her name right, Mary Beth helped with the book. Please go get the book and become a patient, become a donor, and help this cause. Again, Mary Beth, tell us the website and how people could get involved and help. And if they need help themselves, what can they do to get the help they need?
So the website address is thegonzalezprotocol.com. And there you'll find a ton of different information, a lot of free videos, different articles that Nick wrote. There's a special section on how to become a patient with these new doctors. There's a section on the metabolic diet. There's a place where you can reach out to me and ask questions. And I really encourage you to take a look and then let me know what other information that you need. So that we can help you on this journey. I knew when Nick died that it was really important that his legacy remain. And earlier this week, a friend had contacted me, and she told me that she wanted me to know that she was one of the people for which Nick still remains alive. Well, Ernest Hemingway, who, by the way, is a classic parasympathetic dominant, he once said, every man has two deaths: when he's buried in the ground and the last time someone says his name. And in some ways, that makes men immortal. Well, when the name of that person is said for the last time, that's their real death. That when there's no more memory, no more spiritual connection to that person, that is the real death. So for Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez, I just pray that with all of our work together and with everybody here who's watching this podcast, that Nick's second death is a very long time from now.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Thank you for joining me today.
Your eyes and your vision are under attack. Damaging blue light from the sun, your phone, your computer, your tablet, even light bulbs and car headlights is constantly bombarding you. The good news is our eyes actually already have a line of defense to counter the effects of blue light. This defense is made up of 3 pigments called carotenoids. MacuHealth with Micromicelle, the only supplement with the exclusive patent on all 3 macular carotenoids and Micromicelle technology.
Fitting multifocal contact lenses presents a big opportunity to meet patient needs while growing your practice. Alcon is your partner not only with our innovative portfolio, but through e-learning. Learn to enhance your multifocal strategy today with the Alcon Experience Academy.
Each generation was supposed to be healthier than the last one. Lifespan was supposed to be increasing. We were supposed to be in this paradise by now. Instead of getting healthier and healthier, it seems to have gone the opposite way.
Millennials were projected to be the first generation in history to not outlive the generation before them.
We are certainly headed for disaster.
I think a lot of people are beginning to question the whole story.
We live in a time where the paradigms are shifting.
And the optometrist, in my opinion, is one of the best kept secrets.
The public doesn't realize about going to the eye doctor. So many different diseases actually manifest in the eye. The back of the eye is the only place in the body that you could actually see the blood vessels.
Completely non-invasively, you could screen thousands of people, not just for their eye health, but for their whole body health.
Because this disease is here, it's also going to be here.
And I can look into the back of my eyeball, and there are expert doctors on the ground who are looking at my eyeball while I'm doing it.
The eye is the canary of the mind.
The eye is the kingdom.
Will everyone please open their eyes?
Since I bought Safe For You, my dad makes me clean his boat.
Es natural y es un buen producto.
Every time I go back to school, my mom always makes sure that I have my Safe For You products. I bring extra, and my roommates certainly don't mind.
It's a good thing I had Safe For You to clean up after this little guy.
When my hands get dry, I like to wash them with Safe For You.
And most importantly, the reason why I buy Safe For You is because it's safe for me and you.